Hey, man.
Happy to be here. Cracking a cold one.
That's Celsius.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's a Coors Light for audio listener. That's what we're doing. It's not. I feel like maybe we have to clarify because someone's like, this is their first time here.
Wait.
You know,
our first studio used to have Coors Lights everywhere. We'd come in and
we shared it with a bunch of comedians, and it smelled like weed and Coors.
And literally they would just leave cans.
Yeah,
like there'd be dozens of cans lying around.
And now we leave cans of Celsius around.
Yeah, I actually the very first Space Tim was one of those cans of Coors Light. I picked it up and talked into it.
I don't think so. It was your Dr. Pepper. It was not.
It was
that sounds disgusting. No, that's not true. And
I don't. That used
I don't want people to think that about you. I don't want people to think that you would pick up a used Coors Light can for a bit. What's the episode about today?
Used Coors.
I am happy to be here.
$3 oboe.
Hey, stop talking.
Okay, sorry.
Now I'm not happy to be here. Hey, when does this episode come out?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not even a slight idea. It's like sometime in June.
Great.
I think it's the third week of June, if I'm guessing.
All right.
This is a ballpark.
So anyway, now our Patreon is cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We made the change. There's one tier. Instead of doing like 2 tiers or whatever, you can pay more. Yeah, we had 3 tiers. There's just one tier. Yeah. And so we just...
It's $1 million a month.
No, here's the thing. No. I wanted to make a solid point if you want to be quiet.
I agree.
I hate that I got like 3 different emails in the last year from Netflix that are like, hey, it's going up $1.
More.
Yeah, the Strader Hughes made it so difficult to send you your Netflix. Like, that's so stupid. So I hate how everything else in the world is so expensive, and we want to make sure that we're not one of those things, and we want you to join it. So we made it one flat price, and I hope that
$40 a month.
Oh my gosh, Tim.
And she's like, oh no, I hate it when you do that. Don't do that. Like, I want to hear what you're saying.
All right, Blair, we gotta talk business. Should we pay Blair more? Or should we cut her paychecks in half? We should probably cut it in half.
She has no idea what
over there
said.
Like things I learned last night. Did we say $6.99?
Yeah, we landed on $6.99.
Okay, great. For one small price of $699 a month. See, it's not a good bid, is it? It's not really funny how everything is so expensive in this world.
It was funny. I laughed at it.
$6.99, which is the cost of a Subway sandwich in 2009. So if you, for the low cost of one Subway sandwich of 2009, you can support this
Subway
podcast.
Footlong.
You know, I have been thinking like we should launch this. We should be posting this on Substack or something. I just want to think of different ways where people are able to support the show where they support other things. You know?
Yeah, we can do that.
We might as well try.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Howard Hughes?
Yes. Yeah.
Hot. Yeah. Don't disagree.
Yeah.
Here, I'll show you another picture.
Why do I know who Howard Hughes is? Yes.
He honestly looks so much like the second Spider-Man.
He looks a lot like
Andrew McGuire's.
But he also looks like what American Psycho would be based out of.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It does seem
I know who Howard Hughes is, but I'm just not putting it together. Is that plane having an oil leak?
It does look like
probably just washed. It was probably just washed. I had a dream last night. This is crazy. I had a dream last night.
We drove out to see Las Vegas.
Here's the thing. Alex isn't here, so I'm just alone in this, just so you know. Alex isn't here today. It's kind of sad. We should have him record a couple little just to throw in a couple little You know, but he's not here, and I feel weird. And now there's no one for me to look at to be like, am I dumb? Am I, you know?
Blair's here.
Yeah, but she's dumb. So now I feel like I'm the only one who's like, all right, you guys are just dumb.
You guys are just dumb together.
Don't get mad. I'm not wrong. So anyway. It's really funny because she's on a box fan.
Yeah.
Go ahead with who Howard Hughes is.
Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes. I won't bury the lead. Howard Hughes is like I don't know if successful is the right term. He is a prominent. We'll use the term prominent. I mean, I guess he was successful. He made a lot of money. But depending on how you quantify success, but he was a film producer in like the 30s, 40s.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. That's what. Yes, I do know this.
But
yes.
he has a pretty storied story.
Okay.
I think the best place to start is to start with his background, where he comes from.
Yeah.
His dad, also named Howard Hughes, but he goes by Bo.
Cool.
And he was kind of.
Wait, what are the Howard Hughes movies? Films? What's his work?
We'll get through them.
Okay.
We'll go through them kind of one by one.
Yeah.
They're interesting stops.
We're going to count his many blessings, name them one by one.
What?
Oh, you didn't go to real church, did you?
No.
You only grew up singing.
You didn't go to real church. What does that mean?
Oh, did you never open a hymn when you were a kid?
No, we didn't. You didn't do hymnals at my church.
Yeah, that's why you're bad theology, dude.
Actually, we did for a minute when I was really young, and then we moved away from them.
Many blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I can't hear.
And there was a Chris Tomlin version that would go, count your many blessings, name them one by one. Really? Ba, 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 ba. See what God has done. It was just like a weird thing in the middle for no reason.
Really weird. Okay, well.
I raise my white flag. Hey, speaking of, this is months late by the time this comes out. I forgot to tell you this morning. Did you see the Newsboys press release last night?
No.
They filed a lawsuit and they named a lot of people.
I did see them post about it.
And I downloaded it to search if Shama or myself were mentioned.
Were they?
Nope. We're not big enough to have been sued.
Is it just like hey, you're making fun of us lawsuit?
No, they're suing for defamation. They're saying that none of this stuff happened.
Oh, because
they're lying.
What did they do?
Michael Tate.
Oh.
Abused people on the road.
Interesting.
And there's it's pretty verifiable. And so, I think they're suing for defamation because they're saying that the rest of the band didn't know, which is, and this is so true, false. They knew the entire time. Everyone knew. Everyone knew.
It is hard to believe that you could be in that close of quarters with people for that long and not know what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. But they're suing people, so maybe we shouldn't. Oh, allegedly they didn't know because they want you to think they think you're dumb.
Sue us. What do we care? We don't have nothing to lose.
Please don't. They do seem pretty sue happy. They're gonna make a whole movie about it too. God's Not Dead 7: Newsboys versus the World.
Yeah, never mind. All right. So his dad, Bo is described.
God knew.
Bo's dad.
You didn't want to go down that path?
No. His father, Bo, is described as a scoundrel. That's the word that's used to describe him. His early life, he lived in Joplin, Missouri. In the late 1800s, and he was literally run out of town by a girl's father with a shotgun. I don't know if it was a shotgun, but he was run out of town because he was making advances on this guy's daughter, and he was like, "Get out of here!" And they chased him out of town.
Yeah.
Which, so he left Joplin, and he goes to Houston, and he gets to Houston.
I like that you edited on the fly because you were about to say something, and you were like, and then your brain was like, "That's not interesting enough," and you kept going, and I'm very proud of you. That's growth.
Thanks.
So.
Bo gets to Houston in 1901, right at the beginning of Spindletop, which I don't know if you know what that means.
Okay.
Spindletop was this event in 1901.
Is let me guess what it is.
Okay.
Spindletop?
Yeah.
Feels like it's probably something Swedish. I feel like there's a lot of blonde people in Houston just doing Spindletop. Hey, it's just Spindletop. I can't do es vida say, it's Spindletop. And it's they have a lot of brats and a lot of, that's a little bit more German, I guess. Well, both. They got a lot of brats and beers and it's a big festival.
Pretty close.
And they sacrifice stuff. People?
They do sacrifice stuff in a sense.
Okay.
No, it was January 10th, 1901, just outside Beaumont, Texas, which is like a little outside of Houston. And
a little more bayou-y.
A little more bayou-y for sure.
Is that what it is?
A guy drilling for oil.
Oh, okay.
Hit oil big in the Spindletop.
Oh, is this Lucas Oil?
I think this is where Lucas Oil comes from. And so the Spindletop gusher, also known as the Lucas gusher, which I guess is Lucas Oil, came from this. I haven't researched heavily what Spindletop
so
gusher.
He goes to a thing.
He goes to Houston, and he gets to Houston like just before Spindletop. And Spindletop was the discovery of this well.
Oh, okay.
This well was literally, they tapped the well and they hit it. They didn't know how much oil was in there. And it just started gushing over 100,000 barrels of oil a day. And so this was like an unbelievably like fruitful oil deposit.
Sure.
And so
now he's rich.
So he sees this happen and he immediately goes and starts buying up acres of land for a handful of dollars, like literally like single dollars of for land. And he turns around months later and sells them for hundreds. And so he makes a moderate fortune.
Sure.
It's not, you're never working a day again in your life, but it is, you're wealthy now.
Yeah.
And so he takes that fortune and he reinvests it, starts opening up wells and doing digging operations, and he becomes kind of like an oil magnate. And so this is Howard Hughes' father, Bo. And he is living that lifestyle. Howard Hughes is born in the middle of this whole event. Let's see, he's born in 1905. So his dad is building his oil empire. Howard Hughes is born, and his mom, they're living this wealthy lifestyle, and his mom's kind of watching what's going on in the world, and she's got this paranoia about just like sickness and disease, because she's seeing major sicknesses move around the world. Did you turn me up?
Yeah, because you were being really loud. And I thought, surely he can't hear himself. Well, I was trying to turn myself down because you were being really loud. And then I was like, well, maybe I can get him to be less loud if he can hear himself a little better.
It just hurt my eardrums.
You were yelling into the microphone for a second.
I wasn't yelling into the microphone for a second.
Listener, put it in the comments. Say, quiet down, Tim.
Say, speak up. Can you speak up? Say, can you speak up?
Oh,
if you think I was
it's a power move. That's a power move to do to people. Yeah, it immediately puts you in a position of power and you go, can you speak up, please? I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Can you speak up?
Yeah. And it also, I think it does work in the inverse, though. If you say, can you speak down, please?
Hey, can you be a little... It's a lot more rude.
Can you be a little quiet?
Can you speak up? Can you speak up makes it be like, maybe this is a both of us problem. You're speaking too quiet. I can't hear. Hey, can you be quieter?
Can you be quieter, please?
It's just me.
So comment one of those below.
But can you be quieter? Because it was a lot.
So Howard is born in 1905.
See, this is a good level.
In the middle of
the oil boom.
In the middle of the oil boom. Yeah. So his dad's business is growing, making a lot of money. They're becoming pretty wealthy. Spindletop.
You don't even know what that's from.
Is that from something?
Yeah. And educated, smart listeners will know what that's from immediately.
Okay. Well, I feel like you're making that up.
I'll get rich off of you.
I really feel like you're making this up.
Spindletop. I need to have a little guitar. And I'm engaged. I'm engaged to somebody, but then this new nanny shows up, and she's so much prettier, and with her short hair and her singing, and I've got 100 kids, and so Spindletop, and the girl I'm engaged to is kind of crazy, it's cheaper by the dozen. The Steve Martin version, because there's cheaper by the dozen, Steve Martin, and then there's yours, mine, and ours, Dennis.
Yeah,
what's his name?
Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, and
Dennis Quack.
Dennis Hawk Nelson.
Oh yeah, Hawk Nelson is in that.
Yeah, really weird.
Same movie.
Yeah, it's exactly the same movie. So this is the turn of the 20th century. Pneumonia, the flu, and tuberculosis, and a bunch of other diseases are like all over the place. Everyone's getting sick. No one really knows why. They know why, but it's spreading really quickly.
Sure.
And his mom is so paranoid about sickness and disease. And they're pretty wealthy.
She shaves her head and she washes her hands all the time. She never shakes anyone's hand. She only fist bumps.
And she invented that.
She started that. Deal or No Deal.
Yeah. You got that. So she literally every day would wake him up and she would check his entire body for like hives and like listen to his breathing to like see if he had like any sort of sickness. Like every single day.
Just a good mom so far.
For sicknesses.
So far, good mom.
So he kind of grows up in this world where he's kind of taught like, oh, like at any moment you can get sick and die. And your mom's really afraid that that's going to happen to you. And so he's growing up in this world. His dad is becoming an oil financier, and he's on a train one day, and he meets a guy on this train, and the guy is like, "Hey, you're the owner of that oil company, right?" And
he goes, "No, that's my dad." Because he's like a kid.
No, he's talking to Bo, his dad. Howard is not. Bo is on the doing business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's traveling for business on a train, and this guy approaches him, and he's like, "Hey, I am an engineer, and I work in one of the oil fields, and I've been getting frustrated because they use these drills, and I think they called them fish hook drills or something like that."
I think I figured this out too, by the way, why you're so out of breath right now.
Why?
Because you put the mic down and you talk like this.
I talk like this.
And you're hunched over.
I'm out of breath because I don't breathe when I talk.
Let's put the mic up. Look, chest out. I know it's really hard for you to do. And there you go.
I run out of breath because
you still got to. I run
out of breath because it's not pointed down; it's pointed up. What are you talking about?
I'm saying it's still like it's. You got to be loud, mouth level.
Yeah, but I gotta look at this.
You can't see over it.
No, I don't know.
All right. I was just trying to help you be less out of breath. You really were stressing. You're stressing me out a little bit.
Here's the thing.
I'm starting to be. Let me check your body for sickness.
Yeah, listen for a wheeze. I am a little sick actually.
Are you really?
Yeah, that's probably more of the problem. Dad, Bo, is on the train, and the guy approaches him. He's an engineer.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm frustrated in the field.
He's like, I'm frustrated with the drills because they had a drill system, and the way it worked is it was a long pole, and then it was like it fanned out in both directions, like a 90-degree angle to drill. And the way it worked is it just kind of chipped at the rock. And so
how does oil work? Is oil just down there?
Yeah. There's just deposits of oil. It's kind of like an aquifer, but of just oil.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. It's way down there. And so you got to drill. And the problem with these is they describe them kind of like chisels. And so they would kind of like batter against the rock. But the system, like when you hit rocks that were like stronger, not surface level rocks, it would constantly break those drill bits. And you're drilling down thousands of feet. And so that was like the process to get it all the way back up, change the bit, and then you break it down and break. And so it was just very inefficient. And this guy showed him a design. And he essentially designed this new drill bit that there's actually 3 of these heads on it, and they are. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. If you just think of like, at the end, at the end of The Incredibles when they introduce the mole villain, and he's got that giant drill.
Yeah.
So it's 3 of those drill heads, and they all come into a point facing each other.
It'd be like if you ever have an automatic like a shaver.
Oh yeah. Similar concept.
So it's kind of like the mole at the end of The Incredibles movie. If you put that on the end of an automatic shaver, and then instead of pointing out there, it's pointed in.
Pointed together. And so the way he described it is like.
But how big is this? Do you know?
I mean, it's big. It's a girthy drill heads. And so like the way they described it is it's like it chews up the rock because it all grinds them together. Yeah. And so it was less likely to overheat, less likely to break. And because it was like teeth like that, even if you had chips.
Okay.
Of it break off.
Is the episode about the oil guy?
No, but this is important.
Okay. He steals this idea.
So he buys the idea from him for a couple $100 right there on the train. Yeah. He's like, here's a couple $100. I'll buy that idea off you. The guy's like, Yes.
I've made it.
Yeah. And so he takes this and he starts the Hughes Tool Company, which goes and starts manufacturing these drill bits. This changes the oil industry basically overnight.
Right.
Because now oil companies through this whole time, like this was every time a drill bit would break, it was hours of lost time, which was thousands of barrels, which was thousands of dollars of lost revenue. And so this was something that these companies were like, yes, we need this.
It spills? Like they would just lose it?
They wouldn't lose it, but
they
it was
weren't,
one of those
they
things.
weren't pulling it.
If you weren't pulling it, you weren't making money.
Right.
But you still had to pay all the operation of everything.
Right.
And then you lost a bit too, so you have to buy a new bit. And so you're just burning resources instead of making money. And so the whole oil industry is flocking to him to get these tools. And he sees an opportunity that sucks. And so what he says is you see this bit? This is the best drill bit the oil industry's ever seen. And I want to give it to you, but I'm not gonna sell this. I'll lease it to you.
Smart.
And so he leases the drill bits. He doesn't sell a single bit. His company only leases them. And so they become unfathomably, extraordinarily wealthy.
Right.
Like they are making money hand over fist, hugely, hugely successful people. And so his dad is like, I want to make a life for you. And so he tries to send him
whose dad?
Howard's dad.
Just talk about Bo. Bo is wildly wealthy.
Bo goes to Howie, and Bo is like, Howie, I want you to be successful.
Okay.
And so I want to send you to college. So he sends Howie off to college, Howard.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really do great in school.
Okay.
Ends up transferring him from Harvard. So he sent him to Harvard at 14, which I think this was a different time. So that was like
Harvard's in
Boston.
Iowa.
Is it in Boston?
It's in Iowa.
Harvard's not in Iowa. Don't look at me like that.
Yes, it is.
Shut up. Hold on. No, it's
Google it.
It's in Cambridge, which is basically Boston, right?
Cambridge, Iowa. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you like this show, we would love to see you in our Patreon. It's a great way to financially support the show. We don't make money from this. It just helps us to pay the people who do make money from this, like Alex and Robert, our editor, and maybe one day me and Tim.
Maybe one day.
But only if you join.
Only if you join. We can't
We're
get
waiting.
paid.
We can't get
until
paid.
You pay.
We can't feed Tim's kid until you join.
He's hungry. In the arms of an angel.
I like for a second you believe me.
I did not think it was Iowa.
I just did Brad.
There was not a
Garrett's Comedy
second where I
Club
thought
this
it was
week.
Iowa, but I did for a second be like, maybe it's not Boston.
You go, I guess. I just did Brad Garrett's Comedy Club all week. And
who's Brad Garrett?
Brad Garrett is who is Brad Garrett? I guess I asked him that and he crumbled. He went,
how do I describe?
Who is Brad Garrett? No, he's the brother in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yes.
And so, which he loves that's what you know him from. He's so nice. He's great. But the other comic, so like Brad would go up and do either 15 minutes or 40 minutes. Didn't, however long he wanted. And then he'd bring me up, I'd do 10. And then I'd come off stage and he would do another 15 or an hour. And then he'd bring up the other guy to do 25 minutes. And so like that was the whole thing for the whole week. And so one of the nights we're backstage during the other guy's 25 minutes, me and Brad, the guy comes off stage and Brad just goes, "Are you done? Are you joking?" And he's like, "What?" He goes, "You only did 6 minutes." And the guy was like, "No, I didn't." And I said, "Dude, you went up there at 9:15. It's 9:20 right now. You did 5 minutes on stage." And he was like, "You guys are messed. No, shut up. No." And Brad's like, "Dude, you got to do the time you're paid for." And like, when you can see someone's eyes be like, "Did I do 6 minutes?" It's the same look that you have where you're like, "Is Harvard in Iowa?"
Is Harvard
like there's there's enough doubt that it's like this is clearly absurd.
Yeah.
It was because it was a really tough crowd. All of us hated that crowd. Sorry if you were there on Wednesday, April 20-something. We all hated you. Brad came back and was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I know. We all hated you.
So anyways, he goes to Harvard, doesn't work out.
Yeah.
His parents then send him to Caltech.
Which is in Iowa. All colleges are in Iowa, by the way.
So he goes to Caltech, where he's actually studying math and aeronautical engineering as well.
Okay. While he's
there,
that's why he's next to that plane.
While he's there, he's 16 years old, and his mom tragically dies in what they think, and we don't know for sure. There's not like clear details, but what sounds like it was an ectopic pregnancy.
Okay.
But she suddenly dies. There was no sign of anything was going to happen.
Yeah.
And this kind of crushes him.
Right.
And so he leaves school. He quits school. He goes back home. And 2 years later, 1924, he's 18 years old. His dad suddenly dies of a heart attack in a business meeting. And his dad was only like 55 years old. Woof. So very quickly, in the matter of 2 years, both of his parents are dead. He has no siblings.
Right.
And he was raised in this world where his mom basically, without ever actually saying it to him, was like, at any moment, you can get sick and just die. And then that kind of happened to both of his parents. And so this is important to know about the story of Howard Hughes.
Okay.
His dad, though, hadn't updated his will since his wife had passed. And so he was the next of kin who was just going to get everything, which included their entire estate, but also the controlling shares of the Hughes Tool Company.
Right.
But at 18 years old, and this is interesting. I don't know if this is like the way the law worked back then, but at 18 years old, he couldn't control this company because he was technically still a minor. I think that the law at some point changed from 21 to 18.
I don't know, dude, because they still let kids go to work in 1924.
Well, yeah, kids could work.
You could work the oil field at 7, but you can't own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I genuinely think what happened, and I don't know if this is true or not, so don't quote me, but because he wasn't 21 is why he couldn't own it.
Yeah.
And I think that World War II, they were like, we need more adults to fight in this war. And so I think they shifted that back to 18 is my guess. I haven't looked that up. Don't quote me. That's my guess.
I am going to tell you right now, that's for sure not why. Like, okay, so did he just lose the company then? What happened?
So he goes, and because he can't own the company, he inherits the controlling shares.
Right.
But they're like, oh, you can't have this. Sorry, man, you can't have this because you're like a
But what happens to him is what I'm saying. What happens to the shares?
So he goes and he goes
legally changes his age.
So he goes and he goes through the court system to become emancipated. And so he goes through this emancipation process, which allows him, even though he's technically still a minor, he can say, I can take care of myself and I'll be a legal adult.
Okay.
Even though I'm technically underage.
I'll be a real big man.
And so he goes and he actually successfully pulls this off. It takes a little bit, but at 19, he ends up pulling this off, becomes emancipated, marches into the Hughes Tool Company, and he now owns 75% of the company.
Right.
So a controlling share of the company. And what he does is he says, okay, I'm the boss. I'm in charge now. All the VPs were trying to get the company, and they were so mad that he pulled this off. He's a little kid. And he says, okay, this is my company now. And he says,
this is my company now.
But he says, but I
own it. This is mine.
And he says, but I am not interested. And he says, but I want the money. And so he hires this guy by the name of Noah Dietrich, who is an accountant.
Okay.
And he says, this is Noah. Noah's going to run the day-to-day of the business, and he's just going to report how everything goes back to me. He says, I'm moving to Hollywood. And so he literally completely steps out of the business, leaves the company on its own in Houston,
right,
and hires someone to run it and basically just send him checks for profits. And so he's just making literal millions a year for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that is the American dream, is just to make a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing.
It is, absolutely. And so he moves to Hollywood.
And this is true too, all right? People are like Nepo babies. Hollywood has been rich kids forever.
It's true. Yeah. That's
so this is just A rich kid moves to Hollywood.
Yeah. So he moves to Hollywood, fat bag of cash from the inheritance.
Yeah.
And then also money coming in from the business.
Regular fat bags of cash.
Yes, yes. He marries Ella Rice.
Hot.
and then he says, I'm gonna pursue a career in film. I want to be a movie producer.
Okay.
And so he produces his first film. It's a silent film called Everybody's Acting. And this is a silent film. And I just want to read to you the plot real quick.
A Marshall Nealon production?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is the plot of Everybody's Acting. Doris Poole, whose parents were theatrical people, was orphaned as a child, and 4 members of the troupe adopted and raised her. When grown, she became the leading lady in a San Francisco stock company. She meets and falls in love with Ted, the millionaire son of a rich widow, but she thinks he is only a taxi cab driver. His mother objects to the romance and looks into Doris's past. She learns that her father had murdered in a fit of jealousy her mother and tells Doris what she has found out. The 4 actors who had raised her had never told her what happened and what happened to her family to become an orphan. They persuade Ted's mother to send him on a voyage to China in order to get him away from Doris. But they neglected to tell the mother they had also booked passage for Doris on the same ship. And this is a silent film. And so this is like a really complex plot for a movie that you can't hear.
Do you not know how silent films work?
Yeah, there's like subtitles.
What are you, stupid?
What do you mean?
Are you a dumb guy?
Yeah, there's like a thing. It's like this is something that's happening. It's like stage directions. What are you looking at me?
It's a whole art. You know what? It's a whole art form, and and I'm not going to argue with it about it. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's too complex. People are so stupid that they can't understand. Your stupid little TikTok brain can't understand art. But go ahead.
So they pre-screened this, and it was so bad that he burned every copy of it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, the acting's awful. The story doesn't make any sense. The production value is awful.
People were like, he's a taxi driver. No, he's like rich. He's like a thing, Oh, you don't understand.
You don't understand. Maybe if you could hear this.
Your stupid little TikTok brain.
TikTok brain. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Your stupid little book brain can't understand movies.
Everybody here's
motion pictures.
And so this is like for most people, this would have ruined him because he tried to be.
You guys can hear it, right? Just
to be clear. Sorry. Just
freaking.
To be clear, he tried to go the traditional route. He tried to go to producers. Tried to get.
He's trying so hard not to touch this microphone.
Tried to get brought on at a major studio to produce a movie, but everybody's shooting him down. Everybody's like, we don't want anything to do with you because they were like, this is just another rich kid from Texas who's trying to spend daddy's money to make his dreams come true.
Yeah,
we're not going to be a part of this.
It's another rich kid from Texas, trying to spend dad's money. Hey, I could be a country star. It's really not that difficult.
No, it's not.
You see some of the people that are making country stars now, and you're like, that's the other thing I think I'm mad about too, is that I look at this stuff and I go, these people aren't working that hard to become this level of fame. Like their agents are doing all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I go, hey, do that for comics.
Yeah.
You're making us do sketches. We don't want to do that crap.
Yep.
I want to get on stage and sing honky tonk and then make a bunch of money. That's a sample. Send that over to my agent.
Okay, so he's
just spending his dad's money. I won't do the. That's like the guitar part. I won't sing that in there.
I won't sing that.
I won't be like doo.
But you could.
I could.
You could.
And maybe that's the
point
style.
Is I could do it.
I'm just spinning. And my
do the steel guitar part. I won't do this.
Wow.
Yeah, there we go.
Here's the thing, man. 90s country music was really good. And I'm not embarrassed to say that.
You keep sending me stuff from 90s country music.
Gosh,
like, you remember this one? And I'm like, no, I don't.
It hits so good.
This.
I'm learning that not everyone know it. Yeah, do you love me? Do you want to be my friend? And if you do, you don't know that?
No.
Well, then don't be afraid to take me by the hand. If you want to.
At all. Like not even.
I think this is how love goes. Check yes or no. That's good.
It's like it's not even like I heard that in like a Texas Roadhouse growing up. Like I
didn't even hear that in a Texas Roadhouse. It's not even like I overheard that in Texas Roadhouse once. What are you talking about, dude? You think I'm sending you stuff that's like, you remember this? And you're like, yeah, from the Texas Roadhouse. You think I just turn on the Texas Roadhouse playlist?
Texas Roadhouse from the early 2000s.
I hate this stuff. Blair, do you know what I'm talking? You don't even know songs. You don't even listen to music.
Yeah, she can't hear music. It's like a thing. Like she can hear talking. She can hear noise. But once music starts, she can't hear that. It's something about
That's
melody.
the direction you want to take
it's
that.
Something
All
about
right.
melody.
We're building her character in the show, and you've introduced this lore where she can't hear music.
And it's not a volume thing. It's a melody thing. If it's melodic, she can't hear. So when we need to tell secrets, we tell it melodically. And she's like, oh no, I hate it when you do that. Don't do that. Like, oh, I want to hear what you're saying.
All right, Blair, we got to talk business. Should we pay Blair more? Or should we cut her paychecks in half? We should probably cut it in half. Do.
She has no idea
She's
what
over there
said.
like,
I can't hear that.
And there's not even any title cards to help her. So, to be clear, is it like okay, that's a weird lore, but it's true.
It's true lore.
And we shouldn't make fun of her because
that's pretty ableist.
She's very, if we can make fun of her, we have a girl who works for us and she can't understand a word I'm saying. Wow. She's so mad right now. It's like we're speaking a different language.
Okay. So this is a moment that would wreck most people.
Yeah.
But he's not most people.
But he's got money coming in. Who cares?
And so he burns literally.
That's the whole thing about, that's what I said a couple episodes ago about like the comic whose dad is a billionaire. Where it's just like, you have the freedom to try stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And so,
which I think art needs.
Yeah. I agree.
need the ability to fail.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture where you can't.
It's true.
So it kind of set it up. It's kind of difficult.
So he gathers every copy of this film that was produced, burns it in a big bonfire, and then he says, my failure here was I hired people who weren't good enough. And so I need to hire better talent, better videographers,
never introspection, always outrospection. I love outrospection.
So then he comes back with a second movie.
Yeah.
First one, for as far as everyone's
Home
concerned, first release, he puts together 2 Arabian Nights. And this ends up being
This is
a smash hit. It wins an Oscar.
This is it.
He wins the Oscar for Best Producer that year. And so this becomes like, it puts him on the map as like an actual movie producer.
Right.
And so now all of Hollywood's kind of shaking in their boots. They're like, oh, this guy's actually
shaking
good at
in
this.
their boots.
This guy actually can do this stuff. And so then he goes back to produce next the movie Hell's Angels. And this is a significant film for a lot of different reasons, but probably the biggest one is because the concept of this movie was it was like a World War I dogfight movie. Remember, he loves planes. He's like a plane nerd, big plane nerd.
Yeah.
And
a plain old nerd.
And he says, I want to make a dogfight movie, but everybody in Hollywood, when they make movies with scenes like dogfights, what they do is they take miniatures and they film the miniatures. They make models. They make it look thing. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get real planes. So he goes and he buys planes. He spends $13 million amassing this fleet of planes, getting this group of pilots to be his stunt pilots for it. And he films a movie reenacting dogfights from World War I. And it's actual literal dogfights. They take Zeppelins up to film this stuff from the Zeppelins. What's crazy is he would hold off production. They would literally sit out in like their trailers for months on end because they'd wake up in the morning, the barometric pressure wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
They'd be like, we can't film today because the clouds aren't going to look good. Or they would film a shot and they'd be like, that shot was perfect. Like the stunt pilot nailed it. Everything was exactly the way they wanted it. But it's like, but that cloud was in the wrong spot. So we're going to shoot it again.
Sure. And if you have unlimited money, why not?
Why not? And yeah, so this was kind of a production where like they were burning through so much cash that any normal studio would have killed this project so early because it was burning so much money. But he just had the money to spend. And he also, a side note
he really pioneered this genre of movies.
Oh yeah.
Because these are now, I mean, through World War II. And maybe that's a problem. I feel like we don't have, maybe I'm wrong on this. As I'm saying, I can think of a couple. Like, how World War II veterans would just sit around and watch black and white movies about reenactments of World War II? There's so many every old guy you knew when you were growing up.
Yeah, I was watching World War II movies.
Was watching World War II movies in the living room all day.
Yeah. I mean, I watched World War II movies in the living room all day.
Right.
Yeah.
And
well, it was the last war that I think we glorified. I think glorified is we won others, but I think it was the last one we glorified until the War on Terror.
Which one did we win?
We won all of. I mean,
did we win Vietnam?
We won all of them. We won all of them. We said we won all of them. Yeah, I guess you're right. But it was the last one that was very cut and dry. There was glory.
Good guy, bad guy.
Yeah. Until the War on Terror, and then the War on Terror, we saw a bunch of movies again.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's true. Yeah.
But your Vietnam War.
But
movies were
what I'm saying is
glorious.
Are the veterans of Iraq, are they watching?
I don't think so.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's a generational thing. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know.
He's uncomfortable.
Howard, though, he's a pilot. We haven't covered this yet, but when he was a kid, his dad took him, I think, to Coney Island was where this happened. I don't remember for sure, but he took him on a vacation.
Iowa.
And on this vacation, there was it was a souvenir, not a souvenir, a carnival ride was airplane rides.
Yeah.
It was a little 15-minute ride. You land and
right.
And it captivated him. He's like, I love planes. I got to do this the rest of my life. And so he learned to fly, became a pilot. And on set of this movie, he had stunt pilots who this is what they do for a living. They do tricks in their planes. And they would go up, they would do a thing. He's directing this film now, not just producing. And he'd be like, hey, this was close. Let me show you how to do that. And so he would go out and do the stunt and be like, this is what I want it to look like. And then he'd come back. Well, one day he was doing this stunt, showing them how to do one of the flights. And he just nosedives right into the ground. Walks away without a scratch somehow. But he was like, okay, so do that except for the last part.
Except for the last part where I nose dove into the ground.
But he had bought so many planes that wasn't a big deal because he had, at this point, a fleet that was larger than most air forces in the world.
Okay.
Because he had bought so many planes for this movie. And so he finishes this movie, ready to release it. They're putting together their marketing packages. And then this thing comes out. And it is audio for movies. And he's like, oh my gosh, you can hear it now? And so he goes back, he scraps the majority of the movie and makes it now using this actual audio technology.
Sure.
Recasts a bunch of roles because he realized some of his actors, you're not very good.
Your voice sucks.
Yeah, you're not very good if you have to talk. And so then finally releases this movie, Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
To massive critical acclaim.
Which, go back to that. Very cool that this movie theater is
still here.
It's so I like that.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I like it.
I also love that they actually the signs that they put up for the movie is really cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they released Hell's Angels, and this was an interesting movie. What I should say is it from a plot and
Howard Hughes thrilling multi-million-dollar air spectacle.
Yeah, it wowed audiences, made a lot of money, but did not recoup the investment even close. But it wowed audiences, and it kind of captivated the world of what a movie could be.
Yeah.
And so it really kind of upped the ante for Hollywood because you got to make this good. But from critical audiences, it wasn't seen as that great because the acting wasn't great.
Okay.
The plot wasn't great. The dogfights were crazy cool.
Yeah.
But everything else was just kind of
it's like Fast and Furious.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot to be desired outside of this.
It's like that. The acting and the story isn't the point.
Yeah, the point is like, look at the plane.
Point is, car goes under truck. Car, truck, under.
Car, truck, under. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom. You understood that.
But
she doesn't know a lot of things, but she does know when you say vroom, vroom. Sorry, we were making fun of you. Vroom, vroom. Oh, was that too high? Was that almost melodic? If you do too much inflection with your voice, it starts to clip.
So he moves on. 1932, he is just finished his...
And at this point, he's only 28?
He was born in 1905, so yeah. No, 27. 27.
Nailed it.
So he puts out his third release. I shouldn't say third release. Third major release. There's a couple other movies in here that weren't as...
This sucks that I'm so far behind. This guy's 5 years younger than me.
I know.
On his third theatrical release.
Yeah, he also is like hundreds of millions ahead of
you. And his dad was rich. I'm so mad at my dad for not being rich.
Could have been rich, Dad.
Oh my gosh, I'm so mad at my dad.
So he puts out what will be his third major success story. But he runs into a roadblock because this movie was Scarface, the 1932 Scarface.
Yeah,
so
obviously.
This is a story about Al Capone, and he wanted this to be a like accurate story of what his life was like. The problem was, at that time, there was legal and like cultural rules around what you could put in a movie. And so like there was a lot of censorship of not just like language, but content.
Yeah.
And even down to things like you couldn't glorify a criminal. Like that was against the law in a movie. And so he puts this movie together. He puts it before screening boards to like rate it.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't release this. This like breaks every rule. And he was furious. And so they come back with all the edits he has to make. And it's like basically the whole movie.
Yeah.
And so he goes and he sues the editing board. He goes and he enters into this massive legal battle and he changes a bunch of the laws around it. But then even though he successfully changed a lot of the laws around censorship, no theater was picking it up. They're like, we're not going to run this.
Yeah.
This is not okay. And so he then says, fine, I'll run it myself. And so he just goes across the country and finds all these independent theaters that will run this movie.
Sure.
So this kind of turned him into like the scandalous producer. It's like, oh, this is something you can't see anywhere. It's violent, it's vulgar, it's dirty, like in every way.
Sure.
And so this got him a lot of I don't know if I would say underground audience, but a lot of attention in a different way. And then he puts out what I would say is his last like really huge successful movie, which is The Outlaw. And The Outlaw is a similar story because he discovered a young actress named Jane Russell. This is her first role.
Yeah.
And this is a story, a Western. And he, similar to the Scarface story, he wanted to make a scandalous story in the Western setting. But for this one, he, I think I would go as far as to say like he changed Hollywood with this release, and I think he changed Hollywood with each of these releases.
Right.
But I think the knock-on effects took a few years to like catch up with what he was doing.
So this is scandalous.
He puts out The Outlaw, and what he does with this movie, where Scarface like objectified criminal culture and violence, The Outlaw objectified women, and he.
Oh boy, am I sick. I sure do need Tim Stone's Get Well Quick Trick. And what is it? It's simply chug an entire gallon of orange juice. Wow, I forgot. And then this shirt reminded me. I'm so glad that I have this shirt as a public service announcement, a public health service to other people around me. Do your part. Get this shirt. Shop.TILLN.com.
He films this movie, and in a lot of the scenes, he's like, our costume designer is dropping the ball. They're not doing what they need to do. So he designs new outfits to accentuate his actress more.
Right.
And again, the censors are like, you can't put this out, man. Like, this is insane. And so he just enters a legal battle with them. He sidesteps the industry as a whole and produces this movie. And this movie becomes a commercial success. Again, like most of his movies, critics at the time did not like it.
Yeah.
Over time, critics began to, I don't want to say they thought they were good, but they see it for like the influence and like the value it had on Hollywood.
Sure.
For his production style. So meanwhile, he is still producing movies. This is kind of the end of his success, his time frame. You're stopping me a lot, so don't look at the clock. Meanwhile, he's still producing movies, but he's like, I want to pursue my other passion, which is I want to make airplanes. And so he starts research and airplane development research firm.
This is great to watch you try to figure that out. So he starts
Well, I was going to say aerospace. I was going to say aerospace, but then I was like, that's not
aeronautical.
I was like, it's not aerospace.
He starts an air
space
company.
Part. Yeah, so it can't be that. But in the early days of World War II, he's like, our airplanes are not fast enough.
Right.
And he's like, I want a plane that's like so fast. And so he looks at all these jets, or I guess they weren't jets yet, but all these planes, and he's like, the problem is we have all these rivets all over the planes. And he said, once you try to hit fast speeds, those rivets are small, but it's enough to slow your aerodynamics and slow your planes down. So he actually develops and engineers this plane, which inset all of the rivets on the plane. And it also, for the first time ever, he designed retractable landing gear to make the plane more aerodynamic. And he builds this plane with Hughes Aircraft, is what the company's called. And he takes it on its maiden voyage and breaks the airspeed record, flies at 350 miles an hour in like 1937.
Right.
And so most air forces in the world copy his designs for World War II, and it becomes a major invention. And going into World War II, when the U.S. started to get involved, they tapped his shoulder. They were like, hey, we want to build a spy plane. Can you help us build a spy plane for the war effort? And so he starts putting together the XF-11, which ended up
crazy.
Yeah. He starts building this in the middle of the war, but runs into a lot of technical problems during development. So it doesn't actually hit the quote unquote market until 1946. So after the war. But he takes
it on perfect timing.
Perfect timing. He takes it on its first flight though, test flight. And here's the thing about Hughes. Throughout his whole film career, he became a little bit of a control freak. Yeah. And so he would have to take over on things all the time, and he would have to insert himself into the process. Even when he hired people who knew more than him, he would step in and be like, you're doing this wrong. Let me show you how this works. And so for the XF-11, he said, I'm going to fly this plane. Okay. I'm going to be the one to do this. I'm going to test this. So he takes it on his first test flight. And while on the test flight, one of these engines, there was a mechanical failure that caused the prop to actually invert and start rotating the opposite direction. So he's got two props rotating opposite ways. And he, for reasons that don't make a lot of sense, was testing this just over Los Angeles. And so he crashes this plane and flies through 3 homes in Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh.
Test flight. And this is a just extreme crash.
Yeah.
He survives, but he has 3rd-degree burns all over his body. He breaks multiple ribs. He has a serious head injury. Just incredible injuries. He's in the hospital for a long stint. While he's in the hospital, the doctors prescribe him with morphine, which becomes a crippling addiction that he never recovers from. Continues making movies, continues developing airplanes. Also around the same time he was working on the XF-11, the Army tapped him to build the H-4, I think is what it's called, H-4 Hercules, which they wanted. Basically, an aircraft
Is this
carrier.
going somewhere?
Yes. They wanted him to build an aircraft carrier of the sky.
So hold on. Before we get to it, this is what I'm talking about, Tim.
This is a good story. The whole thing is a good story. Every part is a good story.
Tim, why did we spend 20 minutes on Bo?
Because it's important to find out how he got his money, and it's interesting.
Why don't you just say his dad was an oil tycoon?
We didn't spend 20 minutes on it. Go back and count the time I talked about it. We spent 5 minutes on it, and then we spent like 20 minutes talking about a bunch of other stuff. About how I breathe too much. You keep saying
you're so defensive right now because you know that I'm right.
So much. Why is this guy breathing so much?
Dude. Okay. So get to where it's going then.
So he worked the Air Force to build a airborne aircraft carrier, essentially. It's not aircraft, but it was supposed to be able to hold boats and tanks and cars. And so that way you could fly into the battlefield, land.
And is this floating in the water?
Yeah, it's floating. This is a seaplane.
All right, well, Tim, go a little slower.
Okay, sorry. So this is a seaplane.
So this is a sea.
So the H-4 Hercules, there are a couple things happened here that were pretty significant. One, it needed to be able to land on the ocean.
This is wild.
Two, the wingspan is longer than a football field. This was until 2019 the largest wingspan on a plane ever, which is crazy.
Really?
And the other thing about this that's insane is because this was during World War II that they contracted them for this, they had a steel shortage because they were building so much stuff for the war. So they said, you got to be able to figure out how to do this with wood. And so this is a wooden plane.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's coated in. They coated it in steel, so that way it could like take hits in war. But this was the body of it, like the interiors were all wood, which is crazy.
That's insane.
And so this was Here's the thing about this though. This plane never saw any combat. This plane was never really used. It was kind of impractical. It could take off. It could fly around a little bit, but it did not have. It could not fly to an actual destination.
Yeah.
And so now this is sitting in a museum. This was never an actual success.
Where is it at? I want to go see it.
I'm pretty sure it's in California.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like an aeronautical
Probably
museum
in Iowa.
Probably Iowa. So all this to say, he's doing film stuff. He's still making money from the oil company, the tool company.
Yeah.
He is doing aerospace engineering now for the United States government. He, through this whole time, had been slowly acquiring shares in TWA and eventually took a controlling share of TWA and started designing the planes for them and creating commercial airliners. He also bought RKO, and this was after his addiction. But RKO was one of the 5 like major film studios.
Yeah.
And he gutted the staff. That one was kind of a loss. He kind of drove that company into the ground. All of this is happening. And towards the end of his life in the 50s, he starts becoming a little bit disheveled. He's very clearly addicted to morphine.
Sure.
And an important thing about him is he was always hot, always was careful to be seen. He divorced after the 4 years. His wife had multiple different wives, dated basically every movie star. He was very careful to be seen with all these people, but he would go to gatherings and parties and be just kind of sitting in the background.
Just around.
Like he wasn't a engaging person to be around. He was kind of a recluse. And
mysterious.
Yes. And as he progressed further in life, he kind of leaned into that a little more. And then suddenly, in the 60s, he goes into this weird stint where he just goes to one of his assistants and he says, hey, reserve me one of the screening rooms at our office. I want to watch a movie. So they reserve the screening room and he doesn't come out for 4 months. And he stays in the screening room and he survives off chocolate and milk, literal candy bars and milk. And he watches every movie, like literally all of the movies for like 4 months. That's all he does.
Okay.
And reports are that he was just hanging out in the screening room naked, eating chocolate and milk and watching movies. And he comes out of that and he's like, that was the best. I'm going to do this forever. And so he leaves Hollywood and he secretly takes a train to Vegas.
That was awesome. That was awesome. I've been working my whole life and it turns out and I've had enough money to do this the whole time, but it turns out that doing nothing is awesome.
Doing nothing is so much better. So on Thanksgiving Day, 1966, he takes a train to Vegas, arrives in Vegas secretly, and he goes to, let me see, what's the hotel called? The Desert Inn. and he takes the penthouse suite at the Desert Inn in Thanksgiving. And he does the same thing. He just locks himself in the suite.
Yeah.
He hires, and this is crazy, the Mormon mafia.
Right.
Because he says, well, they're Mormons, they're heavily religious, so they're going to do what's right. So to be his like personal assistants in Vegas, he's like, you guys are my personal assistants.
And this is like, dude, this Vegas looks great.
Old
I was
Vegas,
just in Vegas this week. It does not look good anymore.
Well, it's interesting you say that.
This is great.
It's interesting you say that because he's there for over a month.
Right.
New Year's Eve is coming. But here's the thing. He's just locking himself in his room.
Right.
He's not going down the casino floor and gambling at all.
Yeah.
So the casino owners are like, hey, you got to go. Like, we don't want you here anymore. Like,
we're not making money off you.
Yeah, you're renting the room, but we could make so much more money off someone who's going to rent this penthouse because those people are our whales.
Right.
And New Year's Eve is coming up. This is a big travel time.
Get out of here.
You got to go. And he's fighting hotel staff, hotel management on this because he thinks this is ridiculous. Meanwhile, something happened very significant right before this. TWA forced him out because he had made a bunch of bad decisions.
Okay.
And in that force out, the company basically buys back all his shares, and he gets what at the time was the largest single check any humans ever received, which was over $500 million. And so he has $500 million liquid cash now.
Sick.
And so he's sitting in this, and the casino's like, you got to go. And he's like, no, I'm not going to go. I want this. I want to stay in this penthouse.
He's like, what do I got to gamble?
So then,
and they're like, yeah. And he's like, okay.
I'll gamble. No, instead, he figures out who owns the hotel. And he gives them $18 million, buys the hotel, and he says, hey, I live here now.
All right.
And they're like, he's like, I'm going to stay.
I'll just buy it. Okay.
So this becomes his hotel. And he was like, hey, it's kind of cool just buying stuff you want. So then he goes and he buys the Landmark Hotel, which I'm pretty sure was the inspiration for the Stratosphere. They're like, what if it was like this, but way bigger?
Sure.
And then he's like, oh, this is sweet. And so he's like, I'm just going to buy like Vegas. And so he just starts buying Vegas.
Right.
And this is a very important moment in Vegas's history because Vegas was, at that time, run by the mob.
Yeah.
And like it was a very underground, like kind of black market casino industry. And he was like, I'm going to buy this all up. And so he basically bought the mob out of Vegas and corporatized Vegas. And with his lawyers, changed a lot of laws. Kinda.
This guy ruined Vegas?
I don't know if I would say he ruined Vegas. It's a little bit of a gray area because he changed it, he corporatized it, but he also made it to where if you lost, someone didn't come cut your leg off. You know, like
true.
So like it's trade-offs.
Well, like if you lost, how are you going to get your legs cut? Like, why were you getting your legs cut?
Well, if you owed the mob a bunch of money and if you had a bunch of gambling debts to the mob and you couldn't pay your debts, then they kill you. But now, like if you owe MGM a lot of money, they take you to court and they financially kill you, but they don't kill you.
Who's getting into gambling debt?
People addicted to gambling, gambling addicts.
Not I.
And so he stays here in Vegas for 4 years.
Who's loaning you the money to gamble it? How is it? That's what I'm saying. How are you in debt to MGM?
I guess you're not in debt to MGM. You will never be in debt to MGM because they're not. But the mob, like they would loan money out to people to keep gambling.
Yeah, here you go.
And you'd be like, you owe me.
Yeah, you owe me.
And then you kind of get into this vicious cycle and then they kill you.
Well, yeah, I understand how that works.
Anyways, so he stays.
Is that what happened to Bruno Mars?
I don't know.
I don't know.
So he stays in this penthouse for 4 years. He's
doing
deep
nothing.
in addiction.
Yeah.
Watching movies all the time. He designed a special spoon so he could pick up peas one by one.
Count your many blessings, name them one by one.
And he becomes this like aggressive germaphobe. He completely lets go of himself. He stops cutting his fingernails.
Sure.
Stops cutting his hair. Stops trimming his beard. He becomes so concerned with the cleanliness of the floors that he starts wearing tissue boxes on his feet. And here's a photo of him staying in the hotel where he just completely loses it. And you can see his fingernail on one of his fingers there is like obscenely long. And so he becomes this like little definition of a recluse.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, from this hotel, he's calling his Mormon mob advisors or writing notes to them.
Okay.
And buying all of Vegas, including at this time, he's like starts to develop a bit of an insomnia. And so he's getting really fired up that every night at midnight, the TV just shuts off. It stops running stuff. So he buys the local TV station and is like, okay, we're going to keep running stuff. And then all the time throughout the day, people throughout Vegas at that time would report, you'd be watching a show and it would just change or it would rewind because he would call the studio up and be like, hey, I missed that. Could you rewind that? Or, hey, I don't like this show. I don't like this show. Can you change it to something else? And so this was just the way he lived his life. He just took over Vegas and just like he had so
And then he'd be like, hey, say that again.
You say that one more
He'd
time.
call into the morning news and be like, just make something up.
Just make something up. And so he's in Vegas for 4 years. And then after that, he kind of starts to bounce around doing very similar thing. Like he would stay in hotel suites for years on end. And he did this in Vegas. He did this in France. He did this in Mexico. He did this in the Bahamas, just flying around, staying places, whatever. Long story short, eventually on a flight back from Mexico.
Long story short, dude, we're an hour into this.
Short story long.
Yeah.
On the way back from Mexico, he gets into his third plane crash, and this one kills him. He dies in 1976, and Time puts out this magazine cover.
Scramble for the billions.
Here's the thing.
Oh, he doesn't have any kids.
Here's the thing. So yeah, he has no heirs, and he doesn't have a will, but he has like $600 billion. And
There's
all of this.
No way.
600 million. 600
I was going to say, no, he didn't.
Well, actually, I should say, I think he's got like 4 or 5 billion. Sorry.
Yeah.
$4 or $5 billion. And so all this money's left, and everyone's like, who's going to get it? Well, the like executor of his estate gets a letter one day. And this letter basically outlines, it's like, hey, this is like the uncovered will of Howard Hughes. Like we found it.
Sure.
And in this will, it is a bunch of organizations. There's one point in his life where he sets up the Howard Hughes Foundation, which is like a medical research foundation that he used for tax evasion.
Right.
But is still now a very esteemed medical research foundation. But it was tax evasion. So they get a bunch of it. The Mormon Church was supposed to get a bunch of it. And then a bunch of his businesses were supposed to have different investments, different people he worked with throughout his life. And then the interesting thing is a completely unknown gas station manager outside of Vegas who allegedly was driving into Vegas one day and just saw a man bloodied on the side of the road outside of Vegas. And he picked him up, drove him to Vegas. And when he dropped him off, the guy said, hey, I'm Howard Hughes. And he said, I'll pay you back for this. And he left him 1/16 of his estate, this random gas station manager, which seemed very odd. And so this goes to court. And in the legal proceedings, they're like, we got to figure out what to do with this guy's money. There's a lot of it. And in the legal proceeding, the defense, which is this gas station owner now, they were able to find that the pen used, this was a handwritten will. The pen used in this will was a very unique pen that was only in circulation for 5 years. That we have like written testament that this was Howard Hughes' favorite pen ever created. And so they're like, this is the ink like matches.
This is Howard Hughes' pen.
Yeah, this is his favorite pen. This must be him. Furthermore, there's a bunch of stuff in that will that's like shows intimate understanding of Howard Hughes' life.
Okay.
But the other side of the coin, they did some research and they managed to find a fingerprint on the inside of the envelope that was sent that matched that gas station owner. As well as they found evidence that he had checked out a bunch of books from the local library on Howard Hughes.
Got it.
Like right after Howard's death. And so they were able to, basically the jury unanimously decided that this whole thing was a fraud, that this guy had came up with this will and left money to all these different organizations that would seem like something he would do, like Howard Hughes would actually want to do, and then left a 16th to him. So he would walk out with like $300 million or something like that.
Right.
So they determined it was a fraud. Here's the interesting thing about this story, though. There is a pretty credible reason to believe that Howard Hughes didn't die in 1976. Because since the 40s, he had worked very closely with the CIA and the United States government. And we actually do know that he had a body double.
I swear, Tim, if an hour into this, you're now going to be like, hey, here's a conspiracy that the CIA covered up his death.
He had a body double.
Which one's him in this? He's the guy sitting at the desk?
No.
pretty clearly FDR. Funny little bit that I was doing.
So he worked with the
It's a funny joke. So I'm legitimately annoyed again.
Throughout his life, he worked on like black projects with the CIA.
Crazy, dude.
Building, like, these highly
oh my gosh. Now there's a conspiracy
planes.
that he never really died.
Well, here's the thing. He had a body double through like from the 40s through the end of his life.
Okay.
And at one point, someone tried to assassinate him. They shot him in the back of the head and he survived. But it wasn't him. It was the body double. And so they say that this was the body double. And so everything that was happening in Vegas, all this stuff that was happening, he was legitimately investing in all these companies.
Right.
But the body double was losing his mind and was living as him in Vegas. And this was like a cover for the black projects he was working on for the CIA.
Right.
And then the CIA, this guy started getting really crazy. And
they
so were like, yeah, this cover isn't really working for us. And so the story is that he died, the body double. And then they conveniently moved Howard Hughes overseas, and he continued working for the CIA until his eventual death. We don't know when he would have eventually died. And the story
probably
is
still alive.
That inheritance was the CIA trying to funnel money to him through a bunch of different movements. But the law stopped it. Yeah.
Sure.
And so his inheritance ended up getting spread to 24 different distant cousins he had. That he has never, like, I shouldn't say never seen, but hasn't seen for decades because he cut his whole family out. When he took over the tool company because everyone in his family thought they should get a piece of that too.
Wow.
So Howard Hughes, really the first eccentric billionaire, weird film career, weird real estate career, weird CIA black ops projects career. And then he did this thing.
All right. Well, you know why his fingers are that long?
Why?
So he can play the fiddle. Hey, there's another rich person who was a kind of a recluse. Her name was Ida Wood. I think you'd like that episode. We covered her a couple years ago. So also our Patreon is cheaper now. And not like hey, it's cheaper, but like, hey, we've made it one price. We want everyone to be able to be involved in it. We do monthly hangouts. We'd love to see you there. Please join it. It helps us grow the show. It helps us keep doing this thing. So we'll see you next week on another Things I Learned Last Night.